Where in the wake of the latest Gaza conflict, the teachers' unions in San Francisco and Los Angeles have approved resolutions endorsing BDS, the movement to boycott, divest from, and sanction Israel. Now, the LA decision may not be final yet, and we'll explain, but the San Francisco Union did release a statement ending, therefore be it resolved that the United Educators of San Francisco express our solidarity with the Palestinian people and call for Israel to end bombardment of Gaza and stop displacement at Sheikh Jarrah. Therefore, it be further resolved that the UASF calls on the the administration of U.S. President Joe Biden to stop aid to Israel, and be it further resolved that the union endorse the international campaign for boycotts, divestment, and sanctions against apartheid in Israel. Well, pretty unequivocal and maybe one-sided there. Joining us now for more is Elisa Finsten, Senior Vice President of Community Engagement of the Jewish Federation of Greater Los Angeles, and joining us from that city. And Elisa, great to have you here. Talk us about the impact or potential impact of these decisions by these two unions. And also, from what I understand, though, the LA decision may not be final. There's a sort of another bureaucratic hurdle it has to go through.
Correct. First of all, thank you so much for having me. It's nice to be here. You're correct. The San Francisco resolution has passed their union, and I can talk about what's happening in LA, although we work closely with our partners in San Francisco as well. In LA, the resolution, if it doesn't get stopped beforehand, still has to go before what the union called, ironically, their House of Representatives, which we understand is about 120-member body of the union, up for a vote in September. So our intention is to try to get that vote to not happen, but if it does happen, it would be in September. And of course, you know, we are highly concerned that the proposed resolution may isolate Jewish and non-Jewish students and staff who support the state of Israel. It really knowingly alienates an entire population of the union's members and intentionally makes LA Unified is this big school district here, which UTLA, the union, represents. It makes their schools feel unwelcome and unsafe for most Jews and their allies. And, you know, teacher unions are supposed to be fair and representative of all students. And now more than ever, it is wrong for any part of this union to take a stance on an issue that will cause personal harm, foster hate, and alienate so many people. You know, the resolution, we think this proposed resolution also emboldens teachers with radical ideologies on Israel to feel empowered to continue this rhetoric and preach this in their classrooms. And we've seen some instances of teachers already using their own social media to further these anti-Semitic radical views on Israel, and which we're obviously very, very concerned about.
Right, and I can see the concern. This is a tweet by that was given by B'nai B'rith. We strongly criticize the bias move by the United Educators of San Francisco to support the BDS movement. This group of educators needs to go back to school to learn more about double standards and delegitimization that Israel faces at every turn. Talk to us about how the federations and the very strong Jewish communities that you have in LA and San Francisco are planning to react or take action against these decisions.
Sure, we're already taking action. As you mentioned, the Los Angeles Jewish community is very large, it's very organized, and it's really ready to mobilize. You know, many Jewish organizations are speaking out against this and getting community members involved. And here at our federation in Los Angeles, we think to start, the best way is to potentially fight this is for Jewish teachers and their allies in the union to come together to defeat it. So we've been activating our relationships that we have with teachers. We take teachers, when we can travel to Israel, we take groups of teachers from LA to Israel every summer. We've been doing that for 15 years. And then we support them as they teach about Israel in their classrooms. So we're gratified to see the number of teachers within the union standing up against this. And we expect those numbers to grow. And we're doing our best to encourage teachers to speak out. And we know this is only supported by an extreme but loud voice in the union. And as a parent of children in this public school system, you know, it's very personal as well.
You know, Elisa, here at I-24 News, we have been covering those incidents, for example, in Los Angeles, those street attacks random street attacks on Jews in your city in the wake of or during the Israel-Hamas conflict in Gaza. I mean, how much concern is there that steps like this, BDS, which is you could say, argue, a peaceful protest, a demonstration, feed into a demonization of Israel that in turn it maybe spurs more extreme, violent actions, anti-Israel actions, but also crossing the line just into anti-Semitic actions?
I think there's a concern. It's a gradual concern. You know, we know it's very nuanced. We know that BDS, as you said, is anti-Semitic because it ultimately demonizes Israel, Israelis, and Jews. And as I said, we know these resolutions intentionally create a hostile and unwelcome and unsafe environment for Jews and Israeli American teachers and students in the school system. And the environment becomes unsafe because, you know, it starts with different ideas, and as BDS grows, it could become, you know, inhospitable to Jews. We've seen this on college campuses. So while the resolution is one, you know, official tactic, BDS tactic that's promoted, you know, it's imperative that we oppose it and we fight it strongly. I will say there is a lot of concern in the LA Jewish community. I think those attacks that you mentioned at the restaurant a few weeks ago were very disturbing and concerning. People are concerned. They're concerned about what they're seeing in social media, and they want their schools for their children and their teachers to be safe. And that's why the Federation and other organizations are on top of this issue.
All right, well, we wish